we see movements of people in the streets, uprisings, not just in the United States, but in the Caribbean. You have Belarus, who's trying to get a dictator out of office. So we're living through a time where people are starting to shed some of that fear. Also, somos más y no tenemos miedo is a chant that was loudly chanted in Puerto Rico in the summer of July 2019. And it translates into, we are more and we have no fear. A little bit about workers' dignity. So we are a worker center. We started in April, right after the flood that took place here. And we've been recovering wages, supporting workers that have been mistreated in the workplace, not paid correctly or not paid at all. A lot of folks that have come through the Worker Center have been a lot of Latin folks, Latinos, African American, folks that might face some vulnerabilities in the workplace because of language or because of past felonies, and they have to check that box that says they have priors. And bosses really do take advantage of this labor force in our city. These are a couple of artworks that I've had the pleasure of helping create. One of the things that we really do at Workers' Dignity, and myself as an artist, is really getting the folks that are being mistreated in the workplace, for them to take the lead in creating these amazing pieces and getting their input. For example, the one on the it's on my left, but the big march that's walking with the sign that says Workers' Dignity, that puppet was created by many workers, some of which who said, oh, I don't know how to draw. I can't even draw a stick figure. But a lot of these workers are carpenters and painters, and they said, oh, I can work a staple gun. I can work with cardboard. So it was just really beautiful to see them just kind of jump into it and figure out that, oh, art is not something that has barriers or borders for me. We definitely bring the noise. We love bringing drumming and definitely want to spice things up. Like, for example, the one in the bottom with images of rats. That was one that we did in front of a restaurant. And who wants to see a bunch of cardboard rats in front of a restaurant? It's definitely going to bring some attention to folks. So that was in order to get this woman, Wendy, her wages. She had not been paid for her wages for about 2 weeks of work. And she did the job. It was just the bosses thought that they could get away with it. One of the things that we learned how to do as we started to make these puppets is that we tried to make them bigger and bigger, and really trying to add dimensionality to it. So we did the Grinch in front of, if you've gone to the roundabout on 8th Avenue, there's all those sticks, the sculpture sticks, and next to it at the time, the conference center, the convention center hadn't been built yet. And there was a lot of workers, a lot of iron workers that hadn't been paid correctly. And there was injury after injury, and many of which the subcontractors and bosses didn't want to, compensate. And so that was one of the actions we did in front of what's now the convention center. Unfortunately, a lot of injuries happen in construction, housekeeping. We work with several workers, not just construction, but some of the fatalities that have taken place in construction have been, have shooken up many of not just the members of Workers' Dignity, but people have lost sons to injuries in the workplace, and also like siblings and brothers and sisters. And I just wanted to show you, I'm gonna go back to one of the clips about the story about Gustavo. This is the young boy, 16-year-old, that's dressed with the football gear. And I'm just gonna go back, if I can, to his story. Let's see if I can make it bigger.
Bobbi, we're not hearing anything. We're not hearing any sound.
I'm sorry, can you not hear anything?
Yeah, we couldn't hear sound.
See if I could do that again.
News for Nashville.
How about now?
Good evening, everyone. A march for accountability after this 16-year-old lost his life on a construction site. Gustavo Ramirez and his brother were both on the job when Gustavo fell 120 feet from scaffolding. Angst over the event turned to the streets of Nashville today. Ryan Breslin tonight with their march and message.
Open your eyes, Nashville. Like, this is how this city is built. This is what it takes to grow so fast.
Cecilia Prado hopes Gustavo Ramirez's death will be a wake-up call.
Nashville is the most dangerous city in the South for construction workers. It has more reported injuries and reported deaths than any other city in the South.
She says there's been a lack of accountability and consequence when accidents like the one on Tuesday happen. Others agree.
It's time for us to actually make change in Nashville for construction workers.
Wednesday, Prado's group Workers' Dignity held a vigil for Ramirez to process the loss in the community and demand justice.
I just want to ask the city, like, what are you doing?
First, they stood in front of the site where Ramirez died, then marched toward Lower Broadway.
Construction is the one that's building the city where tourists are flocking to. We're going to go there. We want people to know what is happening.
Their calls for change to the construction business, one that won't bring back Ramirez, but hopefully stop another death and another family member from seeing their brother's last breath.
He heard Gustavo's last words to him, which were, I love you.
Right.
So to this day, the company, let me just go back to my PowerPoint. The company to this day has still hasn't really taken responsibility for Gustavo's death, and the family, they're still in their struggle, in their lucha for justice for their son, for their brother. So and the victim, the fallen construction worker on the right, Fausto Flores, he was one of the first that we knew of, and also a worker in the Gulch. And we've used different forms of art to talk about these workers that have lost their lives. For Fausto, we created a happening, which is a performance piece that we did in front of, close to the Gulch, and I kind of wanted to play that also. Let me know if the sound is not working. I'm gonna fast forward it to where we ended up at. And again, Flores, the gentleman, Gustavo Flores, died at the Gulch. Also his body, he fell. We don't know exactly whether he was harnessed, but this is a lot of the things that this is what we're seeing affecting workers, whether there's no training given to them or just lack of equipment. And if you're familiar with the wings, they're right there in the Gulch. A lot of people take photos of them. And I was thinking with a bunch of the members at who either worked with Gustavo or other members of Workers' Dignity. And we were brainstorming, what can we do to shed a light on what's happening with construction and workers. And they all agreed that we can definitely bring and create a coffin and bring and take and have a performance piece to commemorate Flores' life. So a lot of what we do, you know, a lot of what I do with art, I love to get to work in collaboration with folks, especially people affected, mostly affected. I mean, everybody's affected, but people who are working in these situations are living it day to day. Let me see if I can go to the next one. We do a lot of solidarity work. We see that an attack on one is an attack on all people. And this is one example with the Black Lives movement. After Eric Gardner, really after Ferguson and Mike Brown, we started to work together and in support of the movement for Black Lives. And we created these coffins with the names of people that had died that year in the US, and with the words, "I can't breathe." Also, again, this is an example of two people working on the art. We like to have, you know, everybody working on it. Everybody has their input, their vision. Another one. This is when folks took the interstate on that one evening. They took 24s and 65, and we created the Black Lives Matter puppet. And I have to say that was probably one of my funnest, I really enjoy working on that puppet with folks. That puppet has seen a lot of action, has been passed on from one movement organizer to another. We don't own the pieces. We feel like we're creating them as a unit in collaboration with others. So whenever people ask for the puppet, it's just a matter of trying to see who has a truck for them, because they're very they're difficult to transport. We also did a new Black Lives Matter puppet, because as I mentioned, that one has seen a lot. And we did, I don't know if you can see it, it's really far in the corner where it says Black trans lives are sacred. And that's the current one that we have also. So if you know anybody that needs them, just shout out. We also support and work in solidarity with the immigration community. This was a Statue of Liberty we created just in time for July 4th. There was an action in front of the sheriff's office to demand that they stop working with ICE. because the sheriff's office will hold certain X amount of beds, really cages to cage people, and just waiting until ICE agents come to take them, deport them, detain them into Louisiana's the closest detention center. So we created the Statue of Liberty, and this is one of the artists, Francesca, who's from Haiti. And this is just an example of how we also used that also to, as a performance piece that day, and we still have it for the future. Shelbyville, if you're familiar with Shelbyville, they had an event, I think 2 years ago, where the militia showed up, really the KKK showed up in Shelbyville, and as an example of strength and force, folks in Shelbyville said that there's no room for hate there. So they reached out to us to say, hey, can you help us create a banner? And Callie is someone that's been working there with tenant rights. She's also part of Surge. So she helped with that and get some tenants and workers to help create some of the art for that day. I did want to introduce you to Jairo. Jairo, I can't do what I do without Jairo. And this is just a video about him. He's kind of like the second mastermind when it comes to doing justice art in the city.
Hello, my name is Jairo, and I'm part of Freedom Arts. And I guess, so the first question was why I had decided to start Freedom Arts, and it really was a decision between Bobbi and myself. I think we were both excited to have art be part of the community movement that we were part of. We really saw that there was a need for like more signs and puppets and things. And I also felt like it was a great way for us to express what we wanted to tell others, especially because it's easier whenever you have a picture, like a giant puppet that people can look at. So yeah, I guess we got together and we found that this is something that we could do together and enjoy while sharing it with other people. Another aspect was that we wanted to help teach others just how to make quick little signs and things for their own things they're working for the community. So we've had a lot of workshops, and it's really just been from the beginning that we wanted to operate in a way that was to teach others just how powerful art can be in helping and also expressing themselves, because sometimes there's things that we can't say with words, but are easier to say if you're like painting onto something or you construct something, and you can really see that when you have the finished product. So the second question was what has been my favorite community project? And I would say my favorite community project so far was the very first community art show that we had. It took a lot of work, Bobbi can tell you, but it was nice to have the opportunity to hold a space for local artists from around the city to talk about specific issues that were affecting their communities. And ours was definitely focused on social justice. So there was different kinds of art from like members of different communities. And it was a really nice experience because a lot of people showed up. The artists really got to like explain to others what their art was about, and people got to just have a different space that you don't get to see a lot of now in Nashville because it's changing so much. So it was nice to hold a space for people that are local and that are going through different experiences around Nashville. And the last question is what I'm hoping to do with my career. So a little background. When I started going to college, I wanted to do studio art, but then I switched to psychology just from seeing all of the trauma and all of the like mental health issues that our community, the Latino community and immigrant community in Nashville have. And so I realized that I could do art therapy as a way to help people heal and talk about their experiences. And so I am currently studying mental health, but my final goal is to be an art therapist so that I can work with people, specifically like immigrant, refugees, Latinos, people of color, minorities. Just work with them and figure out how to process their traumatic experiences or whatever issues with mental health they're dealing with, And what I like about art, kind of said so before, is just that you don't have to have words all the time. You can just express things by drawing or painting, or you can even build sculptures. So there's something really amazing about being able to communicate with others, even if English is not your first language, just because art is such a universal language that people can easily understand. But that's about it. Thank you.
So so Jairo's talking about the the art shows we've done in the, what I call el barrio, the neighborhood. And our very first art show that we did, they're all titled Uprisings, uprisings being a good thing. And we did it at Casey Homes. We reached out to leaders in the community to find out, can we highlight some of the artists in this community? And we were able to borrow space right there at Casey Homes, and we created, we had a one-day pop-up show. This was the second show that we did at Napier Community Center. We worked with the community at Odessa, who helped us in reaching out to a young group of women called the Design Center. It's young women that come and meet once a week, and they create together, talk together about the leadership that they have in the household, either as the older sibling or or just being a young lady. And we also worked with the seniors in the morning. So we had the teenagers in the afternoon right after school, and the seniors in the morning. And basically we came with a theme, and it was what women carry. And we carry all different things. And we had them each mold their hands. It was a really kind of messy art project. It was my first time ever using this type of material, but it was definitely worth it because the artwork was just incredible. Some people decided to put their hands in cages. Others decided to leave them plain. Some decided to paint them a certain color. It was just beautiful. And they were all in awe just to see their artwork displayed here, and to let folks know that, you don't need a title to be an artist. It's just what you have, what you bring, your passion. This was another art. This was the first one that we did in Casey Homes, and we had created some desks with other students from other schools to talk about dismantling the cradle to prison pipeline. The artwork on the left of the mannequin head is by Leslie Berkeley, amazing artist, I believe new and coming. And just incredible artists. And these are some of the students that had worked on the desk project. This is another one that we did. This one was in Edge Hill, the housing projects there. We were just a really incredible experience to talk to these tenants that are really trying their best and hardest to stay in the neighborhoods that they've grown up in. They've have seen so many changes. So we brought cameras, Holga cameras. I had like a stack that somebody had donated, and we talked about, what type of medium would you like to work with? And somebody had mentioned photography, and I said we could do digital, or we could use Holgas. And they were really, some of them, remember, the canisters of film. So a lot of them wanted to do this. And then we had some younger folks that lived in the neighborhood, and they also they were really excited to use like these old fashioned types of cameras. And the woman on the left, her story is really incredible, Miss Janice. And she was like the smallest house still kind of left in between these huge, tall and skinnies. And the title of her pieces of photography were "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" And just an incredible canon of art that folks created in that show. And this is another one. This is more kind of like a workshop we did. Stop Telling Women to Smile, art inspired by Tatiana Faslalizade. Her artwork is incredible. I have a link to her art, but I don't want to take too much time, but her artwork is incredible. She does a lot of wheat pasting. So I wanted to borrow from her inspiration, and I brought this this idea to this women's group from Workers' Dignity. And the question was, you know, have you been harassed in the street? And with words, with looks, with gestures, and all of them said yes. And borrowing from Tatiana's work, they created comments, shout outs to their oppressor. And then my story, like a little bit about me. So I'm from Puerto Rico. I grew up in the States. I grew up in Jersey, but immigrated to the island very young. And at 5 years old, we came back to the States because no one could really find employment. But Puerto Rico has always is part of who I am, even though I am living in the diaspora. The diaspora meaning, you know, my family immigrated here, not by choice, but of necessity. But my roots, all my family is still there. But Puerto Rico, past and present, continues to be that beacon that keeps calling me to create and be the person I am. And if you've been following the news, especially with climate change and all the hurricanes taking place now in Nicaragua and in Honduras, we had a hurricane 3 years ago that killed 4,645 people. Now, some people are like, that's a whole lot of people, Bobbi. Are you sure? And yes, absolutely. We're a colony of the United States. These are the numbers that reflect what colonialism, what happens when U.S. colonialism is at the necks of Puerto Ricans. So, I mean, this was a lot of elderly. I mean, you're talking people that still to this day do not have electricity, still have tarps over the roofs of their head. And this is when we're a colony of the United States. This is one of the kind of like the effects of the hurricane that took place with the cables. There were so many cables like that all throughout the island. And then also July of, not last year, but 2019, the governor of Puerto Rico there was a leak of his chats, like text chats, some of it being homophobic, against women, and a lot of it being taking really jabs at the 4,645 deaths that took place. You had the governor basically saying things like, oh, I would love to see the day when there's no Puerto Ricans in the island. He's a pro-state, or I should say he was pro-state. And when the island, the people in the island and here in the States found out of what he had texted, things just vulgar, people took to the streets in number. And people were there every night in front of the governor's mansion until finally, he says he steps down because he wants to, be a good guy and just step down. But really, it was the masses that took to the street. And I just want you to get a glimpse of that with this. This is the night that Ricky Rosselló, that's the governor, left. I'm trying to move this. There we go. Here we go. And this is kind of what took place that day. The moment that he did it by Facebook, he posted it and said, I'm going to step down. And this is just, I was there that night and there was nothing like that. Never experienced. It was just an incredible feeling for people to know that first you can't you can't get away with saying these things and just nothing's going to happen to you, and people are just going to just continue living with these things that he had said of like the dead and people who represent like Puerto Ricans, you know, LGBTQ women in our community. It was an incredible feeling, and everybody every night would be chanting, "Somos más y no tenemos miedo." We are more, and we have no fear. And one of the things that during the new governor administration, there's a number of artists in the island, two of which I want to introduce you to in my presentation, Papel Machete and Agitate, both who create puppetry and just really incredible artwork. And one of the things that they did was create this guillotine out of cardboard and wood to make a point of, you know, the people have the power. So and now it brings me to the pandemic and what I do in the schools during this pandemic. I couldn't really go, and we couldn't have in-person classes anymore. So, you know, I really, and a lot of my students really couldn't leave their homes. And so I brought art into virtually. And I brought it by really amplifying the local artists we have right here in our amazing city, including Lakeisha, Alicia, Omari, and over here, Donna Woodley. I'm not gonna play them all, but I do have a YouTube. And this is, you know, educators out there, please feel free to use these for your classes if you like. Oops, sorry, my bad. I'm trying to move forward. Oh, let me see if I go small. And yeah. And then that brings us to our project today. Let me see how we're doing on time. Good. So I wanted to introduce you to these two amazing art organizations, I guess you could say, or co-ops that come out of Puerto Rico, the island. And this is a project that they did that I would like to share with you. Let me see if I can. If you can hear it, if you can, please let me know. I'm just gonna close some stuff down. All right. I'm not gonna see the whole thing, but I do want to show you the project or their performance piece.
Y la segunda línea dice EAE. En el horizonte una isla se ve, indio y negro trabajando para el inglés.
So I can't imagine like the emotions people had that in that circle. So they created a circle of
energy that was trying to come in, dictate the show and run things. I feel as if you drop someone and someone's really not happy with that.
sorry, I think somebody's mic is on. But I can't imagine like the emotions people had during that performance piece, but just like being next to somebody and just moving that scroll side to side, and looking at like the I don't know if you could see some of the words. I fast forwarded a bit, but feel free to check out the link. I can share this PowerPoint. But it had to do with like the history of Puerto Rico, starting with the colonialism with the Spaniards, and then with the United States, and then all the resistance that has taken place since then. But it would be, I mean, my dream would be to create something like this here in Nashville, to talk about really uprisings that have been taking place all over, and just like the effects of that on us. But for today, I thought that the project that you all can, that we all can work on, and borrowing from the Papel Machete and Ajit Arte, the two organizations that created this masterpiece, is to reflect on the struggles this year for justice. I mean, I highlighted some things that were myself and Jairo had been working on with other people, other artists in our city. But you all have your own justice work that you are amplifying. But for you to create a work of art, I know I said for you all to bring paper and crayons and drawing supplies, but the more I thought of this, especially listening to the people in the performance piece chanting and singing together, it can be really words, it could be music, it could be a sound or a movement, and any art supply of your choice. And when completed, you could take a photo or video of your piece, and you can email it to me. The idea is for me to create a virtual scroll of your art piece. So if you decide to do a movement, you can record your movement. If you decide to do a sound or music, I can add that to the scroll as well. I mean, it's pretty amazing the different things you could do with virtually right now. And the idea is to work together for one collaborative piece. And I think it'd be quite beautiful to see how justice is working for you, or what you see as your work for justice, being who you are and where you are in this great world of ours. I would like to get snippets of what you're working on, and we can have time to share if you'd like, or if you're one of those artists that artists, educators, healers that don't feel comfortable sharing, because I definitely have students like that. I'm a person like that as well. Then you can email it to me when you feel like it's completed. And the idea is for me to have the completed work and email it all to you, and you can use it as an educator, as a healer, as an artist, activist, as a person. Do you have any questions for me? I want to be able to give you enough time to work. We're kind of looking at 20 minutes now if I stop talking, and I can stop sharing.
Thank you for sharing your work, Bobbi. It's kind of open for questions whether you want to unmute yourself or write it in the chat. Feel free to do that while we work, or you can just wait till the end. So it's kind of open for you. Christopher did ask a question. When do you want our images to be emailed to you? Do you have a deadline?
Christopher, I'm really chill. So I don't like to put pressure on my students or new friends here on this amazing writing symposium. So when you feel like you're happy with it, Christopher, you send it to me. But I mean, it would be nice to have it soon, so we can kind of keep momentum with the symposium. So I'd say like a week from today, so next Saturday.
I had a question about the process of how they string together. And I don't know, that might get some juices flowing for me. Like how you will do that once you get our images and artwork back.
Absolutely. So thanks for that. So I was messing around yesterday with PowerPoint. I mean, it's pretty incredible. You can embed videos on there. Definitely can embed photographs really easily. So the idea was to embed them in there in the PowerPoint, and then you can print out the PowerPoints in little squares already. So we wanted to be inspired by the papel machete and agitarte art, where it's like a scroll. We can do that too. If we ever wanted to do perform this with that would be my dream, to perform this when it's completed, following 6 feet of distance and all that. We could definitely also have the visuals would be easy to print out, and the sound would be I think would be easy also to include into the piece. Those of you that want to create movement for your piece as well, we can incorporate that in the real performance piece if we were ever to do it live. But I was thinking PowerPoint because it seemed really easy for me last night to just put the images and the videos right in there. Unless people have another suggestion, I'm happy for I'm good with other recommendations. So, Lakeisha, what do you think if we give people some time to create?
I did want to highlight a couple of the comments while we're working too. Alicia says, love the collaborative aspect of it all, or all of that is to creating more than the product. A new way for me as a non-artist to think about doing art. I know that's one thing we try to emphasize to the process over the product and what can happen through those possibilities. And then Abagunde says, this sharing is so immense and profound. It is how my community love to work. It is an act of love and vulnerability from Tia. Thank you so much for the possibilities. So.
Thank you for those. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we can feel free to spend the next few minutes working before we kind of close up.
There was one more slide I wanted to show, if that's okay. Well, you know what? No, let's work because I see a lot of people looking down already. So yeah, let's do that, Lakeisha. So maybe in about 30 seconds. I don't like to interrupt people's flow. I'm sorry. Sorry. But maybe in about 30 seconds we'll continue. All right. Did anybody want to share what they have? I mean, we have maybe time for 1 or 2 people. Oh, Rachel, open up your microphone, Rachel.
I'm working on a mask because, and it's of course mirroring, I mean the type, but it's a mask that shows the break and the unity that I feel like in my world that is being experienced right now. And you know, there's so many things like we've been talking about. There's the black and the white. There's the political with the red associated so much with the white. This side will be blue of the star, and it's just like this broken star of unity. So it's racial and it's political, and then it's this mask that everybody's wearing right now, and it's just kind of like a symbol to me right now of what I'm experiencing in my life, and as a Southern woman living in Tennessee that is very sympathetic to all of these racial things that are going on and all these political things that are going on. And, you know, I don't feel like I'm connected with the majority of my state. I'll put it that way. Okay.
Wow, thanks, Rachel. Thanks so much for sharing. Well, you're in a room filled of like-minded folks, so don't feel like you're not alone.
Can't talk about those kinds of things either as teachers. You know, I currently have a teacher that have a school board member. I have a friend that was really questioned by a school board member, and her job has really been put on the line because she had an activist that was here in Chattanooga come and speak to her class. And so there we go.
Yeah. Rachel, I saw that you had something. Rachel, are you still with us? I mean, not Rachel, Amanda. Amanda, are you still with us? Well, I see some folks. Oh, there you are, Amanda.
My little boy showing you all his airplane and turtle that he's been on. Mine is very abstract, and
you can't really see a turtle, but I drew one.
I love it. I love it. We need the youth aspect too.
Mine was a very abstracted fallen tree with some new growth, connection to breathing and honoring what's gone before us.
Thank you for that. I see you, Donald. Donald, open up your microphone. I think we have time for you. Oh, you're still on mute.
All right. So mine is based on, I was thinking the embryo, the child. Earlier on today, when I was in the first breakout, I was talking about how with one of the person I was working with, how the children nowadays, I'm a teacher, elementary, and I went to the park and students never see my face. So I had a kindergartner who I didn't know was a kindergartner of mine come up to me and said, "Are you a teacher?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a teacher." He's like, "Are you the painting teacher?" I'm like, "Yeah." "I know you." But I had never seen his face before. And down here in Chattanooga, you know, at school, you have to wear a mask full time. So I've never seen this kid in my life. I couldn't tell you who he was. And then the following week I had him in my class, and he's in line in the hallway. He's like, "Do you remember me?" And he pulls his mask on really quick. I'm like, "Hi, Christian, I saw your face." So what it is, you know, with the masks, you know, we're losing a lot of it. We're losing kids, we're losing all our identity. So that's where I'm going with this one.
Beautiful. Did anybody else want to share? I see someone holding theirs up. Let me see. Who is that?
It was me.
Oh.
Mine's
Courtney and Mike. Oh, beautiful.
yeah, Mike's
Wow.
looks-
I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time because I know we have to break out and say our parting words. But I have one more thing. I wanted to give you all my number and my email. So I'm going to go back one more time to share this last slide. So view, present. Okay. If you remember the story of Gustavo, I forgot to highlight, give a shout out to Lakeisha, because if you saw one of the coffins that was being held by Woke from North Collective, that was the art piece that was created by Lakeisha. In the spare of the moment, I remember that day I called her. I was saying, "Hey, Lakeisha, do you know if anybody can work on a coffin for this action?" So thank you, Lakeisha. But if you want to continue in the creative process, especially for Gustavo's story, because folks are still looking for justice for him and his family, you can reach out to me. This is my email and my number. If you want to create a scroll-like performance piece for Gustavo, one of the things he did not have, wasn't wearing was a harness. They claimed that they gave it to him, but he didn't have it. But there was a lack of training for lots of workers, and he fell 120 feet from the sky. So one of the things we're trying to create is maybe creating within the harness, which is kind of like a rope, to create that scroll effect. So if that's something that you want to be a part of, in addition to the project that we're working collectively, definitely reach out to me. We're trying to find other ways to bring justice and amplify people's dignity. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, the Educator Cooperative, for supporting me, and really Jairo too. A lot of this, Jairo, he couldn't be here today. Thank you.